Vancouver is the country's most expensive housing market, but there are college kids living like kings in the city's empty mansions. For the inside story on this, we're joined now by Natalie Wong and Natalie Obiko Pearson, both, of course, of Bloomberg News. So great to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
So where should we begin? Let's begin with Vancouver, Natalie. We're talking about Vancouver. I read the story this morning on my way in, and this is just fantastic, because anyone who's had a college or university experience did not live the way that these kids are living. But this is all about the rules and the regimes put in there and people trying to get around them.
That's right. I mean, I think it's difficult to overstate the kind of policies that have come in the last couple of years that have put this market into turmoil. So what you're seeing is that if you own a property and leave it vacant in Vancouver right now, you could be facing about 3% in taxes a year. So obviously, there are a flood of properties coming to the market that owners want to rent out to avoid these taxes. And so you get these odd circumstances like the one that we found, in which college students are living in a multi-million-dollar mansion dubbed the Castle. They've got a sauna, a steam room, a pool in the backyard, a double-height living room, beautiful drapes, and they're each paying about roughly $1,000 a room to live there. I mean, this would have been unthinkable 2 years ago.
Now, Toronto, Natalie, I don't even think you're even that far out of college or university. Did you see this and say, oh man, I did this all wrong?
I was very, very jealous. Even renting in Toronto right now, which I am renting an apartment, and seeing these kids living like kings in these mansions overlooking an ocean for $1,000 a month, that's crazy. And there are more opportunities opening up in this market because of the taxes that the government put in. A lot of these owners that are going to have to pay this 3% tax that you were talking about annually are now having to either put up their homes for rent or sell, and they're going to have to do it soon. So, you know, renters are coming in. We spoke with one broker who mentioned he was fielding calls from people who were offering to live in homes for free in exchange for maintenance or gardening, because they know that these homeowners need to do this to avoid the taxes.
Now, even as wild as the story is, I understand that the owner of the property is a pop star in Afghanistan. Is this what we found out?
Allegedly, that is what we were told. There were some CDs and DVDs lying around the house. We did try and reach out to the homeowner. He didn't want to decline, but you know, I think we've obviously seen in the past Vancouver has been a magnet for people from overseas wanting to put their money in a safe place. So you have a lot of absentee landowners in many parts of the world who want to rent out these properties now.
Now, of course, this is a pretty unique situation. I can't imagine this goes very far, or perhaps it does. This is actually solving the rental vacancy problems. If you were in a point now where people have to take their luxury homes and actually rent them out to groups full of kids, does this do anything to put a dent in the vacancy crunch?
Well, I think, you know, to be sure, if you own a multi-million-dollar property in Vancouver, not everyone is going to want to rent it out to 10 or 14 students. So if you take a look at Craigslist right now, you are still going to see a lot of properties out for rent, not necessarily seeking groups of students, but seeking maybe an executive. And I mean, that sort of brings us back to the Vancouver problem is, yes, the rents are cheaper than they used to be. Maybe a year ago they would have rented for $6,000. Now they're going for $4,500. But still, how many people in Vancouver can afford to pay $4,500 a month in rent?
When I was a student in secondary university, they wouldn't even rent out a modest house in Ottawa to 6 guys. So I'm sort of surprised there's a bunch of kids living in a mansion. Your impressions, obviously, you're based in Toronto, Natalie, but you went out for Vancouver for this. What's your overall impression of the market, having seen it?
I mean, it's fascinating. And even just going back to what you were saying about how not everyone wants to rent to all these students, there are a lot of people that have put in a lot of money to purchase these $4 million, $5 million mansions. And now because they're slapped with these additional taxes, they're looking to sell instead. You know, we spoke to one of our main anecdotes, this woman who is a Chinese-Canadian citizen who has lived between Beijing and Vancouver for many years now, is feeling kind of betrayed by the Canadian government. She says, I'm a Canadian citizen. I'm living between 2 cities. I have the right to have homes in both places, and now I'm getting slapped with this empty home tax. So we went, and she's putting up her house for sale, and she's going to be taking a major discount from what she would have gotten if she sold 2 years ago. And you know, a lot of these people just feel kind of depressed and feel like they're being pushed out of the market, and they're not sure if they want to invest further in Vancouver.
I remember that was one of the concerns at the outset of all this regulation coming into play, that people were saying, well, you know, on one hand in Canada, we welcome foreign investment, we need it to grow our economy, and on the other hand, we're saying, oh, if the money's coming from here, no thank you very much. So this, I remember seeing that in your story. story. This person actually saying, I don't feel welcome here anymore.
Absolutely, and that was it was a really telling example about how much the sentiment has changed on the top end of the market. The high-end luxury properties were the first to get hit. They've seen the steepest falls. This seller, for example, a year ago, she wouldn't have had to do anything, not even fix the hole in the wall in order to sell that property. Now she's having to repaint the place, bring in new furniture. I think we're all trying to figure out what does this mean for Vancouver in the long run when some of these high-end, when this high-end property market is in trouble. The middle market, which is around the $1 million range in Vancouver, is still very robust. There's still a lot of demand.
Fascinating story. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Natalie Obiko Pearson and Natalie Wong, both of Bloomberg News.